Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Now, you've already read from the title that this video is going to be on God of Malice by Rina. I've already made, similar type of videos on By Virtue I Fall and Twisted Lies. The second video on Twisted Lies will come soon, but I thought of making the first on God of Malice because I wanted your all opinion that for the second part of Twisted Lies, should I make it like giving a overview of every chapter, or you want me to read out the important parts, or the epilogue and like the last chapter, or like the main breakup scenes and all that stuff. So put it in your comment section. Also, this month has been great, because also this has been a month of great releases. Twisted Lies, then Rina Can's God of Malice, By Virtue I Fall. Then there's also one Chosen by a Sinner. No, Stolen by a Sinner. Chosen by a Sinner is coming next month. So let me know if you want to. So now in this video, first I'll tell you a bit about who the main two characters are. Then I'll read the blurb for all of you so that you get a little bit of context into the story. Then I'm going to tell you, read the warnings, because this book comes with warning and you need to know about it. It's important, and it's only meant for mature readers. So yeah, read it at your own risk, keeping your feminism and the reality, morals aside. We'll go into the warnings and understand it better, and then a little bit of review, like really tiny little bit review, and then I'll read out the first chapter for all of you. And let me tell you, the first chapter is so freaking good, because it's when they first meet and it's good. So okay, first I'll tell you about the two main characters. Now I've already made a video explaining the family chart, so if you haven't watched that video, go and watch it. I'll put the link in the eye, so that you understand who is his father, who are the main characters' father, and how are they connected to the king, royal elites, and all of that stuff. So this story revolves around Killian Carson and Glyndon King. Now Glyndon is the daughter of Levi King and Astrid, and Killian on the other hand is the son of Asher and Rihanna. And you watch the video to know all about their background and everything. Now there is an island. It has two schools. One is the REU, which is the Royal Elite University, and the other one is King's U. One belongs to the British, the English, and other one of the American. Obviously, Glyndon belongs to REU, and our Killian is from the King's U. Now I will read out the blurb for all of you. I caught the attention of a monster. I didn't ask for it. Didn't even see it coming. But the moment I do, it's too late. Killian Carson is a predator wrapped in a sophisticated charm. He's cold-blooded, manipulative, and savage. The worst part is that no one sees his dark devil side, but I do. And that will cost me everything. I run, but the thing about monsters, they always chase. This book is not a conventional romance and contains themes that aren't to everyone's liking. So, this is what the author has written. So, please check the author's note before reading it. So, I am going to read out the author's note for all of you. It's on my phone. And also, if you guys need the ebook version of this book, or any of the books I've made the videos on, just let me know in the comments. I've put my details in in the description box. Check it out. If you email me, also let me know in the comments that you have emailed me. You'll know the details. Just let me know which book you need, and then we can have a conversation. So now I'm going to read out the author's note for all of you. Hello, reader friends. If you haven't read my books before, you might not know this, but I write darker stories that can be upsetting and disturbing. My books and main characters aren't for the faint of heart. Killian Carson, the main character of God of Malice, is a true psychopath, not a make-believe, not a bad boy who's eventually tamed. He's a villain with very questionable actions, so if you can't handle morally black characters, please do not proceed. This book contains non-con, Dubcon, and suicidal thoughts. I trust you to know your triggers before you proceed. God of Malice is a complete standalone, and that's the author's like, yeah, actually, so this was the author's note. Now, see, there are many, bad boy books where, the girl comes into the picture and the guys, are tame, they get better, for like, just better as a character. But this is not one of those. It's like, I want you and I will get you and I don't care what you think. And there are many actions, many times where he's done things which, if you think about, are not at all acceptable, but he does those. So when you're reading her books, you need to have like an open mind and only read it if you are like, just like mentally, you need to know yourself. As she said, you should know your triggers. And if suicidal thoughts, like there was a time where the book actually begins with a lot of deep thoughts where Glyndon is going through a phase where she thinks about committing suicide. So you need to like decide if you really want to read this book. It's for mature readers, and yeah, not faint of heart. So yeah, decide if you really want to read it. I have read a lot of Rina Kent's book, and like I know her type, and that's why I went with it. So if you've read earlier Rina Kent's book, I don't think it's a problem because you already know like what you're getting into. If you have not, start with the Royal Elite series so that that you get into a pace with her books and then read this book maybe. Okay. Now I will give a little bit of review or like kind of like what happens throughout the story. I will read further the first chapter so you'll know the beginning of what I'm saying right now. Stella has lost a friend and he committed suicide, and it was like they were both going to do it, but she backed off the last moment. So, she's in that trauma that the guy died in front of him, in front of her, and all that trauma is going on. Like, the book starts with her standing on the same point and giving up, but then she meets Killian. He kinds of, just like, not helps exactly, but kinds of does not let her make that decision. But also, like, I have stopped at reading first chapter, but when the second chapter starts, he does a very questionable thing, which if you read from like a very different, like if I didn't, like, if this was just something happening with a real person, I think everyone will be offended. But because we know it's a story, it's not reality and everything, we're like, okay. The best parts for me in the story was when, Jonathan King was involved. Like, Glyndon, she is the only king, like only like the daughter in the all the cousins. So she is like, like everyone's princess, and like Jonathan King only has soft spot for two persons. First is Aurora, his wife, and the second is Glyndon. It's like he calls her his princess. So, there's a soft side we see. Also, like, there are 3 chapters. One from Levi's point of view, one was from Asher's point of view, and one was from Astrid's point of view. In Levi's point of view, there is a portion where there's again, the group chat. If you've read the Royal Elite series, like, how, good these group chat conversations are to read. Let me know if you want a video on that, because that is like a short, like, like a happy ever after, like what happens in there. Marriage stage, honeymoon stage, when they were like the woman gets pregnant, and like all the bits, like the important portions are there in that book, and it is so good. It ends with a group family chat, which is so damn funny. One of my favorites. So if you want a video on that, let me know. I would like gladly make a one on that. Yeah, so there's like a bit of like their chat a little into it. So yeah, that is like very funny. Also, like when once she's drunk, there's like a really funny good conversation with all the friend groups. Also, I want to tell you all, if you read this book, you will kind of get a little info on like who are going to be paired up in the books further. According to me, I think after reading this, obviously we all know that Ellie is going to be paired up with Ava. I mean, they have had this strong connection. Not they exactly, but like, Ellie was like, Ellie, there was 6 years, 5, 6 years gap between them. And when she was a baby, he was like, yeah, he, she is his. Like, he has that, I just love it in book characters. When like they are so, like, set straight that, yeah, she is my woman, my girl, and she is mine, that kind of stuff. Yeah, so that's the first pairing, I think. Also, Glendon has two brothers, Landon and Brandon. They're both the twins. Landon is a twin who is morally grey, so I think there's going to be a book on him because it's Rina Ken. She's going to make on books on the morally grey ones. So I think he is going to be paired up with the like there are twins, cousins of Killian, Mia and Maya. I think Maya is the one who's mute. She had an incident, and after that she stopped talking. She like explains everything in sign language. So they had that tension. So I think they're going to be paired up. Remy, I think, is going to be paired up with Ariella, who is Cole's youngest daughter, that is Ava's sister. And Cecily is going to be paired up with Jeremy, who is Alex Volkov. I think that's what his name was, his son. And also Annika, who's Jeremy's sister. And so Annika is going to be paired up with Creighton, who is Ellie's brother, that is Aiden and Elsa's youngest son. So I think these are going to be the pairings, and there are going to be 6 books in the series. Can't wait to read the next one. Now for me, this book is 3.5 stars, 3.54 stars, I guess. Like somewhere between 3.5, I guess. It's good, but I just before reading the book, there has been so much of hype about this series that I had really like I know without even reading that I will love Ellie and Ava's book. So for me, they are already 2 steps ahead. I like them a little more than I like the other characters. I love this book, but like for me, I've read other masterpieces of Rina Ken. So yeah, after comparing all of that, it's going to be a 3.5 stars. Now, without wasting a lot of time, I'm going to read out the first chapter, and also let me know, how you want the second part to be. After this video, there's going to be a video on Twisted Lies, and then there's going to come a second part to this video. So let me know how you want for me to make the second video on Twisted Lies as well as on second part of Angry God. Let's continue. Chapter 1, Glendon. Disasters start on black nights, starless, soulless, sparkless nights. The type of nights that serve as ominous background in folklore tales. I peer down on the crashing waves that war with the huge pointy rock that form the cliff. My feet tremble on the edge as bloody images roll in my mind with the wrecking force of a hurricane. The replay happens in full disturbing motion. The rev of the engine, the slide of the car, and eventually the haunting scratch of metal against rock and the splash in the deadly water. There's no car now, no person inside it, no soul to be dispersed into the unapologetic air. It's only the slam of the angry wave and the ferocity of the solid rock. I still don't dare to blink. I didn't blink back then either. I just stared and stared, then shrieked like a haunted mythical creature. He didn't hear me though. The boy whose body and soul are no longer with us. The boy who struggled both mentally and emotionally but still managed to be there for me. A sudden chill runs down my back and I cross my flannel jacket over my white top and denim shorts. But it's not the coldness that rattles me to bone. It's the night. The terror of the merciless waves. The atmosphere is eerily similar to a few weeks ago when Devlin drove me to this cliff on Britain Island, an island that's situated an hour by ferry on the south coast of the United Kingdom. When we first came here, I never imagined everything would spiral into a deadly end. No stars were present then either, and just like tonight, the moon shone brightly, like the bleeding of pure silver on the black canvas. The immortal rocks are unassuming witnesses of the crimson blood, lost life, and an all encompassing sense of grief. They all say it'll get better with time. My parents, my grandparents, my therapist. But it only been getting worse. Every night for weeks, I haven't gotten more than 2 hours of hazy, nightmare riddled sleep. Every time I close my eyes, Devlin's face comes crashing in. Then he smiles as scarlet red explodes from all over his orifices. I wake up crying, shaking, and hiding my pillow so that no one thinks I'm a wacko or that I need more therapy. I was supposed to spend Easter break with my family back in London, but I couldn't take it anymore. It was pure impulse when I snapped out of the house as soon as everyone fell asleep. Drove for 2 hours, took the ferry for another hour, and ended up here at past 2 a.m. Sometimes I want to stop hiding from everyone, myself including. Oftentimes, however, it gets too hard and too impossible to breathe properly. I can't look mom in the eye and lie. I can't face dad and grandpa and pretend I'm their little girl anymore. I think the Glendon king they raised for 19 years perished with Devlin a few weeks ago, and I can't face the fact that they'll learn that soon, that they'll look at my face and see an impostor, a disgrace to King's name. It's why I'm here, a last attempt to expel the charge building in my body. Air frizzles my honey-colored hair that's streaked with natural blonde blanche and stuffs it in my eyes. I flip it back and rub my palm on the sides of my shirt as I stare down, down, down. My rubbing heightens in intensity, and so does the sound of wind and the waves in my ear. The, the pebbles crush under my tennis shoes as I take a step closer to the edge. The first one is the hardest, but then it's like I'm floating on air. My arms open wide, and I close my eyes, as if I'm possessed by an alternate power. I don't recognize that I remain standing in place or how my fingers itch to spray paint on something. Anything. I hope mom won't see the last painting I did. I hope she won't remember me as the least talented of her kids, the disgrace who couldn't even reach the tip of her genius, the weirdo whose artistic sense is screwed up in all the wrong ways. I'm so sorry. I whisper the words I think Devlin told me before he flew to nowhere. Light slips past the corner of my closed lids and I startle, thinking that maybe his ghost has risen from the water and is coming after me. He would tell me the words he snarled in every nightmare. You're a coward, Glenn, always were and always will be. That thought spurs those images from the nightmare. I spin around so fast my right foot slips and I shriek as I tumble back, towards the deadly cliff. A strong hand wraps around my wrist and tugs with a force that steals the breath from my lungs. My hair flies behind me in a symphony of chaos, but my vision still zeroes in on the person holding me effortlessly with one hand. He doesn't pull me from the edge, though, and instead keeps me at the dangerous angle that he could get me killed in a fraction of a second. My legs shake, slipping against the tiny rock and sharpening the angle I'm standing at, and the possibility of a fall. The person's eyes, a man, judging by his masculine frame, are covered by a camera that's slung around his neck. Once again, blinding lights flashes directly on my face. So that's the reason behind the startling flash a moment ago. He's been photographing me. It's only then I realize the moisture has gathered in my eyes, my hair in a tragic mess of the wind's making, and the dark circle beneath my eyes could probably be seen from the outer space. I'm about to tell him to pull me because my position is literally on the edge and I'm scared that if I try to do it myself, I would fall. But then something happens. He slides the camera from his eyes and the words get caught at the back of my throat. Since it's night and only the moon offers any type of light, I shouldn't be able to see him so clearly. But I can. It's like I'm seated at the premiere of a film, a thriller, or maybe a horror. People's eyes usually brighten with emotion anytime. Even grief makes them shine with tears, unsaid words, and irrevocable regrets. His, however, are as dim as the night and just as dark. And that weirdest part is that they are st- and the weirdest part is that they're still indistinguishable from their surrounding. If I wasn't staring straight at him, I would think he was a creature of the wilderness, a predator, a monster, maybe. His face is sharp, angular, the type that demands undivided attention, as if he were created for the purpose of luring people into a carefully crafted trap. No, not people, prey. There's a masculine quality to his physique that can't be hidden by his black trouser and a short sleeved t shirt. In the middle of this freezing spring night, his arm muscles bulge from the material with no hint of goosebumps or discomfort, as if he were born with cold blood. The hands he's currently holding my wrist hostage with and effectively stopping my fall to death is taut, but there's no sign of exertion whatsoever. Effortless. That's the word to be used for him. His whole demeanor drips with utter ease. It's too cool, too blank, so that he appears a bit bored, even a bit absent, despite being right here in a flash. His full, symmetrical lips are set in a line as a unlit cigarette hangs from between them. Instead of looking at me, he stares at his camera, and for the first time since I notice him, a spark of light simmers behind his irises. It's fast, fleeting, and almost imperceptible, but I catch it. The single moment in time where his bored facade shimmers, darkens, and rears from the background before eventually disappearing. Stunning. I swallow the unease creeping up my throat, and it has a little to do with the word he just said, and more to do with how he said it. His deep voice sounds laced with honey, but it's actually fogged with black smoke. It has to do with how the words vibrated from his vocal cord before rippling in the space between us with the lethality of a poison. Also, did he just speak in an American accent? My doubts are confirmed when his eyes slide to me with deadly confidence that locks my shaking muscles. For some reason, it feels as if I shouldn't breathe this wrong way or else I'll meet my downfall sooner rather than later. The resemblance of light has long since disappeared from his eyes, and I'm face to face with that shadow version from earlier, muted, dull, and absolutely lifeless. Not you, the photograph. That sounded American. But what would he be doing in such a desolate place that even the local don't treat near? His hand loosened from around my waist, and when my feet slip back, several rocks fall and meet their demise. A haunted shriek echoes in the air. Mine. I don't even think about it as I grab hold of his forearm with both hands. What the? What the hell are you doing? I pant through my choked breaths, my heart stammering, a sense of terror rips through my ribcage, and I haven't felt anything like that in weeks. What does it look like I'm doing? He speaks with utter ease as if he's discussing breakfast options with friends. I'm finishing the job you started.
So when you fall to that, I will commemorate the moment. I have a feeling you'll be a good addition to my collection, but if you're not, he shrugs. I'll burn it. My mouth hangs open as an influx of thoughts evade my mind. Did he just say he'll add a picture of me falling to my death to his collection? I have too many questions, but the most important of all is what type of collection does this lunatic keep? No, scratch that. The ultimate question is who the hell is this guy? He looks about my age, would be considered handsome by social standards, and he's an outsider. Oh, and he gives off criminal vibes, but not petty, ordinary kind. He's in a league of his own. A dangerous criminal vibe, the mastermind controlling countless thugs who usually lurk behind the scenes. And somehow, I happen to appear in his path. Having lived my life surrounded by men who eat the world for breakfast, I can recognize danger. I can also recognize people I should stay away from. And this American stranger is an epitome of those two options. I need to get out of here, now. Despite the nerves attacking my already fragile mental state, I force myself to speak in my no-nonsense tone. I wasn't planning to die. He raises an eyebrow and the cigarette in his mouth twitches with a slight movement of his lips. Is that so? Yeah, so can you pull me up? I could use his forearm to do that myself, but any sudden movement will probably have the exact opposite effect, and he could release me to meet my maker. Still grabbing my wrist with a nonchalant hand, he retrieves a lighter with his free one and lights the cigarette. The tip burns like rich orange dust, and he takes his time before he throws the lighter back into his pocket and blows out a cloud of smoke in my face. I usually gag on the smell of cigarettes, but that's the least of my problems now. And what do I get in return for helping you? My thanks? I have no use for that. My lips purse and I force myself to remain calm. Then why did you grab hold of me in the first place? He taps the edge of his camera, then caresses it with the sensuality of a man touching a woman he can't stay away from. For some reason, that causes my temperature to rise. He looks like the type who does that a lot, often, and with the same intensity he exudes. To take a picture. So how about you finish what you started and give me the masterpiece I came here for? Are you seriously saying that your masterpiece is my death? Not your death, no. It'll look too bloody and displeasing gory when your skull is smashed against the rock below. Not to mention that the current lighting won't be able to capture a good picture. It's your fall that I'm interested in. Your pale skin will have a wonderful contrast against the water. You're sick. He lifts a shoulder and blows more toxic fog. Even the way he slides his finger against the cigarette and the smoke appears effortless when it's shackled with tension. Is that a no? Of course it's a no, you psycho. You think I would die just so you can take a picture? A masterpiece, not a picture. And you don't really have a choice. If I decide you'll die, his upper body leans forward and he loosens his finger around from my wrist, his voice lowering to a frightening whisper. You'll die. I scream when my foot nearly gives way and my nails dig into his arm with a ferocious need of life bubbling in my veins with the desperation of caged animal. A prisoner that's been in solitary confinement for bloody years. I'm pretty sure I scratched him, but if he's hurt, he shows no sign of discomfort. This isn't funny. I pant in my voice choked. Do you see me laughing? His long fingers wrap around the cigarette and he takes a drag before pulling it away from his mouth. You have until my smoke ends to give me something. Something? Whatever you are willing to do in exchange for my chivalrous act of saving a damsel in distress. I don't miss the way he stresses the word chivalrous or the provocative way he uses words in general, as if they're weapons in his arsenal. The battalion in his command. He's enjoying this, isn't he? The whole situation that started with my attempts to forget has landed me with a nightmare. My gaze traced the half smoked cigarette, and just when I'm thinking about prolonging time, he inhales what remains in a few seconds and throws away the butt. Your time is up. Goodbye. He starts to release himself from my hold, but I dig my nails in further. Wait! No change occurs in his feature even as the air tosses his hair back, even as I'm sure he feels me shaking with desperation of a leaf struggling to survive. Nothing seems to have any effect on him, and it scares the shit out of me. How can someone be this cold, this detached, this lifeless? Changed your mind? Yeah. My voice trembles even as I attempt to sound in control of myself. Pull me up and I'll do whatever you want. Sure, you want to word it that way? Whatever I want might include a number of things that frowned upon by the public in general. I don't care. The moment I'm on the safe ground, I'm out of this crazy wonker's orbit. It's your funeral. His fingers wrap around my wrist in a merciless grip and he tugs me from the edge with baffling ease. It's as if I wasn't hanging towards death by a thread just now, as if the water below wasn't opening its fangs to chew me in between them. Maybe just because that's not a good thing considering the devil I'm facing. My harsh breath sound animalistic in the silence of the night. I attempt to regulate them, but it's of no use. I was brought up to have a steel will and imposing presence. I was raised with a last name that's larger than life itself, and with a family and friend who attract attention wherever we go. And yet everything I knew seems to vanish at this moment. It's like I'm dissociated from who I am supposed to be and morphing into a version even I can't seem to fathom. And it's all because of the man standing in front of me. His features are vacant, his eyes still dull and lifeless, and every bleak color in the palette. If I have to put a color on him, it would most definitely be black. Deadpan, cold, and a boundless hue. I try to free my wrist from his hand, but he tightens his hold until I'm sure he'll break my bones just to peek inside them. It's been only a minute since I met him, but I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he did break my wrist. After all, he wanted to take a picture of me falling to my death. And that's while that's odd, it's downright terrifying too. Because I just know that this American stranger would be able to do it in a blink, and not think about the consequences. Let me go, I say in a clipped tone. His lips thin at the corner. Ask nicely and I might. What's the definition of nicely to you? Add a please or drop on your knees. Either will do. Doing them both at the same time would be highly recommended. How about neither? He tilts his head to the side. That would be pointless and foolish. After all, you're at my mercy. In a swift movement, he pushes me to the edge again. I try to stop the brutality of his movement, but my strength is a mere straw in the face of his raw power. In no time, my legs are hanging on the verge of the cliff. But this time, I grab hold of a strap of his camera, his shirt, and any surface I can dig my nails in. Cold. He's so cold, it's freezing my fingers and leaves me breathless. Please. An appreciative sound slips from his lips, but he doesn't drag me back. That wasn't so hard now, was it? My nostrils flare, but I manage to say, Can you stop this? Not when you didn't finish your second part of the bargain. I stare at him, probably looking dumbfounded as hell. Second part? He places a hand on top of my head, and that's when I notice that he's tall. So tall that it's intimidating. At first, he merely caresses a few strands of my hair behind my ears. The gesture is so intimate that my mouth goes dry. My heart beats so loudly that I think it'll rip from my ribcage. His fingers that were just stroking my hair dig in my skull and shove me down so hard my legs give out, just like that. No resistance, nothing. I'm falling, falling, falling. I think he pushed me to my death, after all, but my knees bump against the solid ground, and so does my heart. When I stare up, I find that gleam again. Earlier, I thought it was a flash of light, some resemblance of white in the black. I thought wrong. It's black on black. A shade of absolute darkness, pure sadism, shines in his irises as he holds my head hostage, and the worst part is that, if he lets go, I'll surely tumble back. A frightening smirk lifts his lips. Being on your knees is highly recommended indeed. Now, should we begin again?
So, yeah, that's the end of the first chapter. It sets the story, and I am telling you, the second chapter will actually, after reading the second chapter, which you have not read, you will actually decide if you want to continue with the rest of the book or not. Because it has something which is not socially acceptable. It will make some people feel disgusted while reading. So, this is the chapter where you'll decide, oh, you want to read this further or you do not want to read this further. So, thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and let me know in the comments, please, all the things I've said during the video. And thank you so much. Your love means the world. Thank you.